Good morning, everybody. What's going on, guys?
Good times, man.
Yeah,
I think we're
Scott
gonna have another
Mason.
amazing conversation.
I hope so. Scott Mason, welcome.
Thank you. It is so good to be here, and I am excited.
Oh, I'm so psyched. So yeah, we have not seen my interview on your show come out yet, but we're very excited about that. We're going to post it on our channel as well because,
Good.
It's about me. So, we got to put that up. But more importantly, I really just love talking to you, and I'm really excited for today. And I'm super psyched that you get to meet Tom too, because, he's a good guy.
Yeah, we're trying to be.
Yeah.
Depends on the day,
sometimes a good guy. Yeah. So Scott, we're going to see where this goes, but let's get into it a little bit. You, one of the things that I loved about when I first met you is you have a very strange way you got here, right? Like it's a little bit, you didn't, like, if I know you now and didn't ask anything about your past, and one day over a beer we were talking about your past, I'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? So let's just kind of get to know you a little bit here. Tell us how you got here.
I'll just start by saying one of the greatest compliments I ever got in my life, I think, was when I met someone in real life here in New York City that I had only met online due to the pandemic lockdowns.
Okay.
And when we were talking, she said to me, Scott, I heard a rumor that you're an attorney. I don't really believe that.
Yeah.
Exactly. I am an ex-attorney. I practiced for 25 years across a number of different sectors, went into business, and I am now a coach, a speaker, and a podcaster. And that about sums up the weirdness and the drama of that one.
But you know what's funny is, and we've said this before, we've reflected on this before, I think a little bit on the show, but like, I just turned 49. Tom's about the same. You had a 25-year career as a lawyer. I think a lot of people in and around this place in time get to a point where they're like, okay, that was cool. I got the t-shirt, I did the thing, and it's time to fucking
What's
do another
next?
thing.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest with you, just speaking from my own bias here, it's hard for me to envision, because I'm 26 years now on the tech side, right? It's very hard for me to envision being not associated with technology, right? Like it feels more than a piece of my identity. It feels like a piece of my DNA. And I don't really feel like that's in like a unhealthy way, in the sense that like, oh, I'm wrapped up in this identity crisis.
You don't hate it. It's not like you've been grinding away. It's you enjoy it, but what's next is kind of this big gray space, It's a gray space because I feel like you were a lawyer, right? And for 25 years, I assume that you mostly had to like it. I mean, like that feels like illogical. Yeah, if it was killing you, you wouldn't have made it 25 years. Yeah.
But when you make that jump, how did you like sever that and be okay with it?
Well, you raised something interesting in the description of your own trajectory, Matt. You stayed involved in one way or another. So a lot of the clients that I work with as a coach, for instance, in a lot of places that I speak at, have some association with the law or are directly law agencies. And it can provide a foundation upon which your next level is built. And let's face it, the training that you go through in order to become a technical expertise in whatever that initial path was, in one way or another, should be able to serve you. Now, as a lawyer moving into business in particular, it does two things. First of all, it really gives gravitas and credibility. No one is going to sit up and say, oh, what an idiot. He was an attorney for 25. It just doesn't happen, right? Just as people don't look at people heavily involved in the tech space and say, oh, they have nothing meaningful to add to the conversation in today's technological world. It just doesn't happen. But then also, it puts you in a position where you are able to, in addition to having that gravitas and that background, be able to transmogrify your skills. And again, in the case of the law, don't pay me, you get that little email with an ESQ at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
with you, I don't understand this. I don't understand that. I can't muddle my way through the payment methods, for instance, that you're sending me.
Right.
Well, I'm in tech. I'll help you figure it out. And let's do that right now. Right. And so I think that understanding that there's continuity across even the most disruptive of changes, that life isn't this binary, is of paramount importance there.
Yeah. And I think the way I sort of am translating that in my own inflection moment, even with this show, for example, right? Like this show doesn't exist without everything I've done for 25 years. It doesn't exist without a website, without marketing, without AI, without that, you know what I mean? Like, and so it's like, okay, great. Let's just say today I did nothing but this show. I still am sort of intrinsically bound to be a tech guy. There's no escape from that, right? Like, and I don't know that there would want to be, you know, these blue zone studies where like the guy lives to 98 because he was a taxi driver until he was 97 and a half. You're like, I feel like I'm that guy, right? Like, I'm like, you know, like that guy's not a taxi driver at 98 because he wants to be, or he needs to be. He's a taxi driver at 98 because he fucking
Depends
loves
on the economy.
I mean, I guess, but he also, that guy also loves it, right?
Well,
like,
he's probably getting something out of it, you know, but like, I'll say we got to land this, Blue Zone Mythbuster here. We got to get him on the show.
Do have to. Yeah, Scott, there's a guy who's got this whole thing about
he wrote a damn PhD on it.
Yeah. He wrote a PhD. He got his PhD on blowing up the Blue Zone thing. And one of his core tenets is that like it's basically an employment, like a pension fraud
and poor note taking.
Yeah.
Poor record keeping. He goes, because it's normally in rural areas where like the hospital system may not be that good.
Yeah.
And how old's grandma? I don't know. She's at least 100.
Yeah.
It's like,
I'm gonna be watching that one. That sounds
we gotta get him and
we're trying to get him on the
so many crazy paywalls with every university he's associated with.
Wow.
Yeah. So
wow.
But yeah, so you made the jump. Was there anything particular that got you out of it? Was there a aha moment, or did you just sort of ease out of it?
It was gradual. One thing I realized as I got older was that there was fundamentally a lack of alignment, and a lot of my career, particularly as I transitioned into executive positions, put me more and more in alignment than, let's say, just standing around arguing and going to courtroom all day like I did when I first was out of law school. Just as an aside with regards to that, on the topic of blue zones and irreverent health and all of this other stuff, the litigators that I started out right out of law school with, bad shape. They were making money. Their lives were exciting, but the levels of severe obesity, of drug addiction, of alcoholism, smoking, on and on, divorces, on and on with these health markers, it wasn't worth it. Executive work was more in alignment with me, but it still wasn't quite right. And so I found myself a couple of things occurring. First, I found myself angry, impatient, even toxic a lot. And that was a signal to me of something deeper, because I didn't want to be a toxic person. Number two, especially in some of the more high pressure executive positions that I had, I found myself, even though my diet was strict, even though I exercised with rigor and vigorousness, the mentality that I had behind my exercising, as well as the way even the best habits played out physically on me, were ultimately themselves pretty severe signs of self-destruction occurring. Rosacea all over my face, constant bad breath, weightlifting with an obsession with size so that I could dominate others. These were compensatory tactics and outcomes that ultimately were pointing me in a direction that said, Scott, you need to get yourself together or you're going to end up dead. The highlight came when I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, I think at age 37 or maybe in my mid 40s, actually. And the doctor said, oh, you've got maybe 2 years before your right leg is going to go.
Wow. From and having a healthy diet and working out like that, still type 2 diabetes.
Yeah, the diet was too much food, even though it was all healthful. And so, I would go through these bulk cycles and just consume whatever I needed to get that strength. My body, personally, I'm sure physiques and body responses vary, but mine could not take it. I started to have injuries and everything. It was a disaster.
Yeah.
It's funny. We're looking. I've gotten interested in these like challenges, experiments, right? Like, and one of the ones I want to try is this, like, what was it, Tom? 2.5 grams of protein per body pound, like, right?
Well, Dave was talking about that.
To go into thermogenesis.
It's drastically higher than most even bodybuilders are eating,
Yeah. But like, apparently you can be thermogenic, and I'm like, all right, I could probably try that for 30 days. But then I hear stories like this. I'm like, that is a batshit crazy plan to start out with. So
well, I mean, but they even have supplements that are all like, they're like capsaicin and all that stuff that are supposed to raise your body core. So you're working out and, maybe you're working out and it's warm, but you're like in a puddle of your own sweat.
Right.
And you're like, well, God, how healthy is it? I've got there's a middle of the road thing where we're healthy and we're not killing ourselves 24/7.
Well, especially once you get past 40. I mean, Matt, on to what you were talking about in particular, like I was eating chicken breast like crazy. And after a while, it's sort of like, I've got better things to do with my life besides chew on chicken breast all day.
Chicken breast.
Well, when I actually hit pause button on this, I was like doing the math. And for me to do that, the easiest way to do it would be to go to Costco and buy one of those like family packs of hamburger patties, like grass-fed hamburger patties.
And you're eating 20 burgers.
And just cook the entire box, put them in a big bucket in the refrigerator, and just literally come grab them every couple hours. And I'm like,
that sounds horrible.
That sounds terrible. Like,
I love hamburgers. There's no way in hell I would do that though.
No, it sounds ridiculous. Yeah. But I mean, and then I see these kids at the gym, man, and they're like, these college kids, and they've got 6 bottles with them. And it's like, God only knows what, each one's a different color, different viscosity. I'm like, none of them are water.
And look, they wandered into GNC and some guy's like, this is new. And
I
gotta have it, right? They didn't even look at it,
And can we just take a second to comment on men's fitness and weightlifting magazines and this bodybuilding routine secrets from XYZ IFBB superstar and all this. After a while, I was like, I can't take it. I'm being sold everything. Everything is new. Everything is radical. I feel like I'm being lied to all the time.
Yeah.
Well, anything that works isn't sexy, and it doesn't sell anything.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, the most effective weightlifting thing I've ever seen was Dan John's Mass Made Simple, and it is the least sexy thing literally ever produced.
It's repetition.
Yeah, it's like a $20 book, and you're done. Like that's
but all of his books are like, hey, what's his diet advice? Eat like an adult.
Right.
It's like that. Eat like a goddamn adult. That's it.
Yeah,
Want to know why I haven't written a book on diet? That's it. That's all you got to do.
We haven't talked about this on the show yet because I'm still forming it, but I went into ChatGPT and I took a picture of every label of everything I put in my body on a daily basis.
Yeah, that sounds like you.
Genius.
Right? Yeah. And I have a chat now going called Daily Dose, and it's everything I take. And I've just been having a conversation with it for like a week or two now. And I was at 2,600% of riboflavin of the RDA. 2,600%. And I was like,
water soluble. You'll be
no,
fine.
I know it's water soluble, but like I was actually scraping upper limit in a couple things. I think niacin was one, magnesium was one. Like,
you ever get flushed?
I didn't have any physical symptoms, but I was curious, right? And like, look, this isn't cheap, right? So like my bigger thing was, okay, do I need this? Do I need that? And I'm still working on it, so we don't need to go into it too much, but like, that's exactly what you were talking about, Scott. Like I started taking every one of those things because of something, right? Somebody told me something.
And the cheaper B vitamins specifically, they put them in everything because like they're like, oh look, we'll put it in your multi, we'll put it in with this.
Yeah.
And that's why I was so over.
This is an energy supplement, so let's include the B12 again.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I was over-indexed on a lot of those things. But like, you know, I know though. I took a magnesium supplement for literally like 3 days, and my body went into fucking revolt. And now I know why. I was like at like 1,200% RDA on magnesium. I'm like, I did not need more magnesium. Like, you know,
how'd you leave the bathroom, man?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I didn't have any physical problems. Like that was
crazy.
It. Yeah. So anyway, I agree with you, Scott. And I think one thing that I'm gravitating towards as I get older is like, just fucking act like an adult. Like I don't need all this shit. I like don't eat fucking hamburger 18 times a day. That's probably dumb. Like, you know, like,
yeah. But like that's the person that I was. I was all in. I was determined to be the biggest and strongest that there was.
I mean, were you totally jacked or what? Like, was that
scales and everything? Yeah.
Oh, totally. Yeah. So at my biggest, I was 325 pounds.
Holy
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I looked like the world's strongest man. So I had that thick sort of gut again from overeating, but that probably contributed to the diabetes.
Yeah.
Maybe. And I had a 21-inch neck. I had to turn myself sideways to fit through the subway because my entrance, because my shoulders were too broad.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was kind of fun, right? Like if someone threatened, like women all the time would come up and say, "Oh, will you stand next to me in the subway?" It was at night, or will you walk down the street with me after dark? Because they were afraid. They knew no one would attack me. One time I was with someone and a stranger called him the F word in the subway, and I just screamed, "No!" And he looked at me and he ran.
Yeah, sure.
Wow, that's great.
But like all that's ego, not about sustainability of my life and contributing to anything in this world.
But a 21-inch neck starts yelling at me, I'm fucking running too.
Yeah, look, man, I don't even need to. Yeah.
I mean, I got a second-degree black belt, and I'm still running. I'm like, nope. Fuck.
I'd be running from myself.
No.
Which I actually kind of was.
So then you got into. So then you get out of this, and then you start taking a different path, right? And I know we got to get into the psychedelic thing a little bit. Like I know we've dove down that. You and I are working on a psychedelic project together.
Absolutely.
Like how does that go? Like what, you know, how do you go from 21-inch neck guy to, you know, psychedelic enlightenment, you know?
Sorry about that. That was brilliant. First of all, diabetes and then injuries started piling up. So I needed to move in a direction that was radically different. A friend of mine introduced me to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which was sort of my interim fitness activity that gave me that sense of strength and power, but opened my mind to a more personal development oriented approach and less ego-driven approach to how I wanted to be as a physical embodiment in the planet. In terms of psychedelics, it actually ended up being something that came to me due to podcasting. Once I was more open to the personal development world, utilizing my gifts to be able to support messaging that I had around that, including my very first podcast, ultimately led me to the attention of Nobody Studios, which is the venture studio that's funding Webdelics and is behind Webdelics. But Webdelics, in turn, I was not a psychonaut. I knew nothing about psychedelics when I started that podcast. I was hired because of podcasting experience and personality, and because of the fact that when it was initially conceived, the Webdelics podcast was seen as a vehicle for conveying information about psychedelics to a non-psychonaut audience with an avatar that himself, me, was not in the psychedelic space. However, by coincidence or not, a life-changing, very close encounter with death.
Oh, no.
Changed all of that, led me into psychedelics as someone who was a journeyer, and has shifted how I feel about that radically. And I am now an unapologetic and strong advocate for these substances under certain circumstances.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
Facilitated and things like that.
But I mean, I don't want to pry, but what happened there? Do you feel like talking about that at all? I mean,
I would love to talk about it, actually, and thank you for asking, because I think a lot of this connects to the themes of this amazing show that you have. What I'm about to share with you is dark. It's very painful to discuss. So I may get emotional at different points.
No, totally
That's
fine.
okay.
Thank you. About a little over 2 years ago, after I had been hosting the Webdelics podcast for probably about, I've been recording episodes for almost a year at that point. I suddenly woke up in the middle of the night, like 3 a.m, feeling an ice pick stabbing at the back of my neck.
Oof.
And it kept stabbing and stabbing. But of course, there was no ice pick there. There was nothing physical touching my skin at all. And it kept me from being able to sleep. And when I would go to bed the next night, for the next couple of nights, it continued. At first, I thought maybe I had pulled a muscle weightlifting or was sleeping on a bad pillow. I thought perhaps I had meningitis, which I had had as a child. I thought maybe I had COVID, or maybe, maybe I needed a new mattress, all this sort of stuff. So all of these sort of initial superficial adjustments to and investigations into what might be going on occurred. But then a few nights later, I suddenly woke up. It was June. And it was hot. And I live in a brownstone in New York City that absorbs heat and keeps it trapped. I was so cold, I literally felt like a corpse with a consciousness.
Wow.
And my husband started piling like blankets and bathrobes and clothes all on top of me till basically we were out of things to pile on top of me. And I still was shivering. I was so cold. I remember asking him, he said, I can't pile anything else on you. What can I do? And I said, please just hold my hand so I'm not as afraid. The next morning I woke up boiling hot. And from there, I lost control of my body temperature altogether. Sometimes I would be icy cold. Sometimes I would be burning hot, sweating like crazy. Symptoms piled on top of each other. I lost the ability to focus. I started getting headaches. You
haven't gone to the doctor at this point?
Yeah, that's what I did. I'm like, why wasn't that the ER?
Yeah. And I went to urgent care. Thank you for asking that. And they said, it's just, you know how it is. This doesn't seem like anything serious. Why don't you just go to physical therapy? And they tested for, some common things, and they were like,
physical therapy for sweats and neck. Like, geez.
Yeah, it
we'll
was
save
not
our commentary on the healthcare system for another show.
It really is. And it was a commentary as to my mental state that I couldn't really absorb anything other than like obeying what I was told.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
And so from there, I stopped eating. I stopped drinking. I abruptly lost 20 pounds. I then started to sleep 16, 20 hours.
Wow.
And the time I slept 20 hours hit a critical point. When I woke up from that 20-hour sleep, I woke up with a start because of what I call the dream. In this dream, by the way, I know it was a dream because what I'm about to describe could not possibly have happened. But I did not experience it as a dream, and I do not remember it as a dream. I remember it as something that happened, which is why sometimes I get very emotional about it, because it's like other memories of 9/11, right? For instance, that are very traumatic that you can never forget. In this dream, I was in a brownstone mansion, and it was attached to other mansions, and there were not doors between the rooms or between the mansions. There were like these arched entranceways, and on the walls of each of the rooms within each of the mansions were floor to ceiling bookcases. And I was going from room to room, then mansion to mansion, looking at these bookcases, but they weren't full of books. They were full of baseball cards. And I was pulling out baseball card after baseball card and looking at every one, and every last one was the same. It had in big bold letters the words, "Your number's up."
Wow.
And then my face.
Wow. Feels like the absolute worst trip ever. That dream is.
Yeah. Exactly. It's well put, actually. I woke up unable to walk or stand.
Oof.
And I was rushed to the emergency room where I was in and out of consciousness. I'll never forget during those first days, three things actually. First, the hospital personnel asking my husband whether we lived in an apartment that was first floor or had elevators, and saying, you need to think about what might be for you if he doesn't walk again.
Yeah.
And then I remember David, my husband, taking a picture of me in the hospital bed, all fragile and frail and, with tubes everywhere. And I later asked him, why did you take this picture of me? It looked like shit. And he said, because I didn't think I'd see you again.
Oh, geez. Scott, did they have a diagnosis for you, or is this...
Oh, we're going to talk about that.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
I was like, please get to that part.
I want to know what happened here.
Like on the edge of my seat here, man.
Yeah, thank you. Finally, the other thing I remember is telling the doctor about this dream, because I asked, am I going to die? And she said, we're going to pull you through this. And I told her about the dream, and she just stared at me. While I was there, things got worse. I was confined to the bed as a fall risk. There was a period in which if I so much as turned my neck in the slightest, like let's say I wanted to turn over in my sleep, or the nurse came in and said, time to get up, Scott, and I made the mistake of looking at her. The entire mid part of my back, my pelvis, my torso, my upper legs the nerves would all go off at once, and I would just start screaming in pain. They asked me in detail every single thing that I had done, basically. I mean, in grotesque detail for the past 6 months to figure out what might have led to this. They went through, tested me for every conceivable syndrome or disease that they could think of. They sent me to gallium scans, to lengthy MRIs. What was weird about some of these scans is, from a distance, if they would look at a scan of my whole body or a major part of my body, they would see shadows near areas that I described having pain. But then when they would go and look and scan more closely on that body part, there'd be nothing there.
Nothing there.
And eventually, as this whole electrical jolt of a nervous system thing every time I turned my neck was going on, they kind of gave up and just put me on nerve numbers. There was really nothing they could do. And eventually I began to kind of be able to walk again. My digestive system had completely shut down at that point. There was a period, thanks to a Chinese medicine expert that they happened to have on staff who had a consultation with me, we were able to get that moving again. But by the time all that was better and I was kind of able to walk, I went home. Going to your question, Tom, what was this? The last word that the doctor said to me before I left was, sometimes, Scott, there just aren't answers.
Wow.
The official diagnosis was more or less infection by an unknown pathogen.
So you had almost like a meningitis is kind of what they were taking it as, or
nope.
No.
They're like, it was not meningitis. They ruled
that's so
that
weird,
out
especially in the neck. It doesn't, you would expect some kind of lesion or something.
Yeah. In fact, later my primary care physician told me if it had been meningitis, by the time I went to the hospital, I would have already been dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So, going as to the mystery, and I almost certainly never will know what this was. Why?
At this point, no.
I got better, yeah.
Sure.
But Matt, going as to the issue that raised this, as you can imagine, I was in emotional shock and trauma. And there was weird, surreal things that happened even when I was in the hospital, on top of what I've just shared physically. But I was also in a metaphysical and spiritual shock.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
That checks.
Yeah, and the lack of explanation only complicated this, because there was this fear that whatever it was, I'm fully recovered now, but since we don't know what it was,
Yeah.
why it went away, right? If it's hiding somewhere, we don't know any of this.
And the pragmatic side of you is going crazy asking those questions, right? Like, it's like,
and not only that, but like one of the things that the hospital suggested that I do and that I still have in this house, right? There were things like walkers and things like that they suggested that I take home because they were like, you could wake up tomorrow and not be able to walk again.
Right.
That's insanity, man. That's not comforting at all.
Yeah. And so I needed something. I didn't need therapy. That much I knew. This was an existential, metaphysical crisis and transformative event. Thanks to Webdelics, I knew what to look for when it came to someone who could provide psychedelic support. I went to the right, extraordinarily experienced facilitator. I traveled to get there once I was able to walk again. And we spent a lot of time developing the right setting in the right set or right location. I went on a sacred journey that utterly and completely changed my life, my understanding of everything that happened before, my understanding of this illness itself, which I now see as the greatest gift that I've ever been given in life, and my an understanding of my vision for the future. And that's something that is the most profound blessing a human being can have, and that's why I am an advocate, and why, by the way, I'm a big believer in the Webdelics project and recommend it to anyone, because we don't know, none of us know, you two or anyone watching or listening could wake up tomorrow and have the exact same thing happen, and you might not even be as fortunate as I was and live. But if you do, there's a tool that can help you deal with this in a way unlike anything else has before. The world needs to know about this, and I am proud to be an avatar for passing on that message.
And you know what? You bring up a couple things that I think I'm going to unpack in no particular order, but like there is, and we just talked about this literally last night on a show with
Caroline Corey.
She did Superhuman, and she did a lot of like quantifiable scientific
experiments in psychic activity,
on psychic activity. And you know, if you get when you're in a conversation like that, you realize that if you assume that we are energy and energy is manipulatable, you could move it, you could block it, you could augment it, you could tame it, you can do all bunch of stuff to it. I think we all wildly underestimate the physical manifestation of our own mind. And
I mean, that sounds like when you don't hear, I mean, we talk about this all the time in East Asian medicine. Like if there isn't a physical condition, one, you know, if you look at Western medicine, they kick you to the curb. There's nothing wrong, right? It's in your head. And especially in acupuncture and Chinese medicine, you have this ability to go, no, this is in the spirit, right? This is the realm of shamans. This is the realm of all that stuff. And it sounds like this was like the biggest damn wake up call somebody could get.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, because you can't decouple that manifestation, that physical manifestation, with what you were describing moments before that, which is like, I was unhealthy, I was unhappy, and your body was like, fuck that. Here's a little thing I'd like to introduce you to, just to kind of make you aware of it.
Let's shake you at the core. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, again, we can't, who knows, maybe there was an unknown pathogen, or maybe there was a little bit of both. I'm certainly not going to even guess on that. But I mean, I love your story with the psychedelic side, going back to that, is not really unusual, right? You get all these stories where people get into it, and it's almost like they just walk through a door to a whole nother planet. You know, like, and I've heard this story. I mean, Tom, even on this show, we've talked about this.
You know, and you know, Scott, that dream state that you described seems to be, you know, not everyone has their own specific one. You know, when we've talked to near-death experience people, but it is always so tailored to what's stuck with them. You know,
On the subject of energy. Yeah. There's one other thing that I'd like to share about this, if I may, that I think you all will find.
Please.
Thank you. So during this period, I was in a hospital room that was separated from another bed with a thin curtain.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a series of roommates during the time that I was in the hospital. The second one was during the worst part. And this goes, I'll be very curious as to your reactions about this. So I was in an intense amount of pain. This second roommate was an elderly man looked to be in his late 80s. He was, based on the dress and the physical location that he had come from before being in the hospital, I was able to gather was part of the Hasidic community here in New York City, which has provided a richness and a real level of diversity in the New York City world for decades. I also could hear the conversations with him and the doctor, and it became apparent that the next stop, although he could walk and was alert, whatever it was that was making him sick, he probably would be going to hospice after he was through in the hospital. And every night, as he lay in that bed, men from his community would come in and they would surround his bed. And they would start to sing. And they would sing these words. And this I may get very emotional about because, again, it's something you'll understand why in a minute. They would sing words together in a language that I didn't understand. And in fact, I later found out wasn't even a human language at all. And there would be noises and disruptions on the hospital floor occasionally. And when that would happen, they would just sing. And every night, as they were singing these hymns to the dying, I assume, I would start to feel that music inside. I knew these songs weren't for me. I am a Gentile. I assume that they were not something that Gentiles normally would hear at all. And yet, this music, as it expanded from the space of this old man and the men singing to him, it almost like a globe of some sort that was invisible, fragile, but ever growing, capturing me inside. And I share this with you because during that time, I couldn't help it. I would start to cry and cry, and then the pain would disappear.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
My hopelessness and despair would go. I felt as though I was going into another place. And when they would leave and people would come to visit me the next day, I would talk about what happened and I'd start to cry. Even as I would share this, I'll never forget it because his journey, of course, in the hospital came to an end before mine did. And then he was on to the next leg of his story. But before he left, he went to the foot of our bed and peeked around that curtain. And Tom and Matt, he looked me right in the eye. And he gave me a smile and nodded his head. And then he went on his way. I'll never know who this man was, but that moment changed my life. The gift that his illness, that his community gave me, that kept my spirit alive. That goes as to the metaphysical, the deeper meanings that you're talking about, that also the psychedelic state taps into. That really can change us.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about that, though, what you're describing, music is about as primal as
shamanic,
water,
yeah.
Right, like, I mean, that goes back to the very beginning, right? And so if you just look at the vibration of music.
That was the word I was going to use.
And like just the resonance that vibration brings to not only our physical being, but the environment that we're all occupying. And then when you magnify that with a group, right, and you're doing it in concert with other humans, I think you're in a form of psychedelics there without
100%. I mean, that was the whole thing with holotropic breathing, right? Oh, correct, I can't use the LSD anymore. what else
Right.
do cultures around the world do? It's rhythm, it's breath work, it's
Right.
song, it's chanting. Yeah, you know, all of those things. Matt, you hit it on the head. It's vibration, man.
And holotropic breathing, by the way, I have never tripped so hard in my entire life than I did on holotropic breathing. I was on another fucking planet, literally. My brain, my body was not here. Like, it was intense, like, you know, in one of the most magical ways I could describe, but it was, there was no chemicals involved. It was just breathing. That's it. And it was intense, like really intense. And so, yeah, to Tom's point, you know, when we start to look at, and I think, you know, let's pull focus a little bit back here, because I think this topic really touches all of these topics.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, when you look at it wide enough, you start to realize that, like, we could breathe all the time. Since you were born, you could breathe.
That's a criteria for life. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I just needed somebody to guide me down a road of a specific kind of breathing, right? And there's an order of operations. There's this aggrandizing sort of vibe that they pull you down. It's like a hallway almost, and the hallway gets wider as you go down the hallway, and like before you know it, you're just in openness, and it's color and sensation, and you know you don't know where you're at, you don't care. It's just everything is everything, and you're seeing it all and feeling it all, and you're just it's wild. But I've been breathing since the moment I was born. I've never done that before.
Yeah.
Right. So when you look at all these things, you're like, okay, what just happened? Nothing new happened. All I did was I was shown a way to access something that I did not have access to before. And I've been scared to do this holotropic thing on my own because it is very intense.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm not sure that I'm not sure I have the sort of fortitude to push myself down that hallway to that point. I think I needed somebody pulling me. Right?
Well, that's the same thing as having a sitter with a trip. You know, you have somebody there making sure you're going to be okay. And Scott, before we get on to anything else, man, thank you for the vulnerability. Thank you for the story. I think it's very powerful, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate you all opening the door.
Yeah, on a slightly more, you know, I guess, different approach. If I ever saw a baseball card again after that dream, I'm not sure I'd be okay. Like, I mean, that would be real tough. You know, I think
he's giving me an opportunity to fuck with him, though, Scott. You realize
that? Right. Yeah.
Don't do it, Tom. Don't.
Don't do it, man. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm at a point, Scott, and I'd love your reflection on this, but especially doing this show, especially with the kind of guests we've been talking to in the last 20 or 30, especially, you know, and I'm not shitting on guests we had before that, but we seem to have a vibe
now.
There seems to be like a river that we've gotten on here. And
love it.
I almost feel bad for people who can't see what I see now. Right. And it's like, I can't unsee this, and I can't unlearn it. And now that I'm on this river, like floating down, like it's like, it's all I could see or feel or experience, because it seems to be the only thing that matters, right? Like, okay, feeling like finding that path unlocks anything you've ever wanted, anything at all. Personal calm. Well, guess what? You can't do if you're not personally calm. Anything.
Yeah.
You can't be healthy. You can't be professionally successful. You can't be romantically successful. You can't. There's so many things that would block. And once you start blocking those things, you start blocking, at a certain point, you block what makes you human in the first place. And once you take it that far, then you start to realize, why the fuck would I ever want to do that? Like, that makes no sense to me, right? And so when I see these people at the gym this morning, right, I see 50% of the people I see, they're sitting on a gym equipment, scrolling their phone.
Yeah, they're not in the moment. Yeah,
they're not even in the fucking zip code, Tom.
Yeah,
it's not even fuck the moment. They're not even like, what are you doing? You're fucking wasting your life. Like, every second of what you're doing right now is not serving you as a human being. This is distracting you for somebody else's profit. And
but
I hate to sound like a douche, but
no, I mean, it's somebody else's profit, but it's you checking out. you have no sovereignty there.
And you know what the number one thing I get when I press people on this? You know what their answer is? Oh, this is how I relax. I'm like, let me look at your screen time.
Yeah.
How many hours today did you spend on this? Because that's more than relaxing. You know what I'm saying? I like jerking off, but if I did that 12 hours a day, I think we'd all agree that's a bit of a problem.
And really, how relaxing is it? Because if it were truly relaxing, think about it. The makers, as you implicitly pointed out, Tom, of the content of these various platforms that people use require stimulation in order to keep us.
They want a dopamine
watching.
hit, good, bad, or ugly. It doesn't matter as long as you're watching it.
Right. Now, if those nudniks at the gym who are just death scrolling TikTok could take a fraction of that time and look inward through any one of these mirrors, what changes about them? Because Scott, your story is not unique. Yeah. You take a little crack, take one step, and all of a sudden you want to take 4 more. You take 4 more, you want to take 25 more. It's like, I have not met anybody who's like, oh, you know what? I dipped my toe in that pond and it wasn't for me. That's
right.
I've never heard that story ever. Talked to probably well into the triple digits of people that have done this in various forms. I've never heard one person say, nah, it wasn't right.
So as you referenced earlier, it might have been during our pre-show conversation, maybe it was at the very beginning of the show, a lot of the work that I do, well, all of the work that I do outside of Webdelics is related to thinking about Greek myths as a tool for personal, professional, and spiritual transformation. And the reason I do that is because the deities and the heroes and the stories reference are actually allegories or ways of peeking into the transcendent that you're talking about, the truth, right? And what people tend to really identify and like and enjoy one particular god or goddess or story, right? It might be for me, it's the sun god Helios. And I'm going to talk about that for 1 second because it's going to what you're talking about. Why do I like Helios so much? He is the physical expression of divine radiance. But in myths, as in reality, if you look at him directly for too long, you'll go blind. We can only stand in radiance for so much before we need something that's a little bit more chill. But at the same time, if you were blind and you approached Helios, he would touch your eyes with his hands. The light of the sun would fill them up and you would be unblinded. And so much of what I've chosen to do in every aspect of my life, and this goes as to what you're talking about, Matt, and you too, Tom, which is that once you do dip your toes in, you can't help but not only want to stay unblinded, but to be like Helios. Put your hands on the eyes of others so that they can see. You know, having experienced it, that there is no going back. It's sort of like that, right? That first time you taste food as a child, saying, "No, I never want to eat again."
Yeah. And if you want to use the food metaphor real quick, it's actually like the kind of food where you're like, oh, I had a chocolate ice cream cone for the first time. You're
and
like, well, this sucks.
blows your mind.
Yeah, you know,
how could I be tortured like this?
You know,
how could I be tortured?
Matt and I referenced a couple of times last night that it was a full moon. And I last night, you know, so I'm out in the hot tub as my normal evening routine, and I'm like, this one feels different. And so I looked it up. Artemis is the goddess of last night's moon, and Artemisia is a mugwort, which is a sacred herb that we use in Chinese medicine. That's how we do moxibustion.
Really?
Yeah. So and even
you're a moxa freak.
And I love it's one of my favorite books in acupuncture. Is called Moon Over Matsushima. It is an ode to this plant. And God, we even met somebody, Matt. I don't want to out them now, but we've had them on the show a couple of times, and their daughter is named Artemis.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, that's my favorite goddess right there. Well, second favorite, Kuan Yin is tattooed on my back. I can't overlook her.
Yeah.
I love knowing that. Thank you.
Yeah. And Scott, that's one of the most interesting things I think about your philosophy overall is it's got a very interesting anchor point, this whole like deity thing, right? It's a very interesting lens to look at.
I think it's a completely appropriate lens because if we look at any religious custom, right, all of those things were allegories to teach us lessons, to show us something, and whether or not it happened just like that, that's not the point. It is the message within that. And that's me saying that as somebody that considers himself an atheist, which is kind of funny.
Right.
Huh?
Well, yeah, but like the God thing is universal.
Yeah.
You don't have to be Roman or Greek to give a shit about the story, right?
And it is interesting because, for instance, I know people that are, as I'm sure we all do, who are fundamentalist Christians or fundamentalist whatever belief that they have, and literally have to anchor their faith upon the factual accuracy of, let's say, the Bible. And to me, I'll even say to those sorts of people, now it's not always heard, that I'll admit, but this really
that's
does.
So strange. That's
you're saying somebody rejected your facts with their beliefs?
In the United States, what?
Yeah,
right.
holy.
You presented conflicting information that was factual, and they didn't take it.
Right. Never. But thinking about this for a minute, look at the Bible itself.
Yeah.
I will use this as somewhat of a provocative example, but it's a true one. The Bible doesn't document every single thing that Jesus did. It doesn't say after Jesus had, passed the loaves around, he had to take a minute and go into the forest and take a shit. It doesn't say that. Why? Because there's no meaning to be extracted. The only meaning of the Bible stories is that which is allegorical. So depending on it being factual or not, inherently is actually going against the very editing process that the Bible or any of these.
You can't, Scott. You can't say it was edited to a fundamentalist.
Well,
no, of course not. Yeah, no, this was like a fucking.
Unless you look back through history and it actually happened that way.
But see, now I'll see your allegory and I'll raise you. I've been a marketing guy for 20 something years. That Bible has been republished by people with commercial requirements every time. Like it's never been reproduced just because somebody wanted to quote unquote get it right. No, this guy writes it again because of this reason. This guy over there writes it again for another reason. They're all men. They're all power hungry fucking assholes. and that's it. This isn't like, and these are not even debatable historical facts. Like we could look at each version of the Bible that exists. We know who wrote it. We could peel back why. We know what was going on in their life around that same time. Like this
time frame that,
this is not untangleable, right? Like we have a very clear path to most of this, and so I don't know. I agree. You can't really get into that conversation though, Scott. You can't.
But I mean, he's right though. I mean, it's all allegories. One of my favorite bands, NoFX, actually lists all the different gods that were born on December 25th, and it's a ton of them. Mithra. Horus, and they all had virgin births, and so these allegories appear time and time again, and that's not me to this time I'm not attacking Christianity. I'm just saying, is that story that important that it's survived all of these different cultures? Even the flood story is not, that was a Sumerian text before that. The second incarnation of Krishna was a fish that pulled a boat around with two of every animal on it. It's like we hear these time and time again in cross cultures. There's some significant thing that is, I guess, supposed to be learned there, Yeah,
but there's a guy going out to the lake that's got built an ark to spec, whatever cubit or whatever.
Did you hear that? Did you hear the ark? In the ark they built in the Midwest, the Christian Park flooded.
You're kidding.
It was hysterical. It was in the I shouldn't say hysterical, but
Yeah. You like of all the
little
things that
on
could
the
flood.
nose, man.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, that's the sort of thing that makes you think, well, maybe there is some bigger divine
Don't
going
do it
on.
like that.
But you know, like that guy, if you asked him and you're like, hey, did you build a Sumerian version of this to represent the other story that this one came from? They're like, there was no other story. This is the only story.
Right.
This is the
no,
arc.
actually, this cuneiform tablet we found that's,
right. Yeah. And then that guy's probably like, what the fuck is cuneiform? So like,
exactly.
But even that one thing I don't understand, and we touched on this a little bit before, is that especially now I could be a little bit more sympathetic to this if you were, let's say, raised in a small town away from anywhere in ancient Croatia, right? And these stories were the only things you knew, of course, and no one was disagreeing with you. But now, all you need to do is go onto YouTube or do a Google or even a Chat GPT search if you want to, right? And you will find that there are contrary narratives. And what I don't understand, and this also goes as to closed-mindedness, by the way, about some of the fundamental issues that you talk about on the show, health, the idea that there is just one correct narrative around spirituality. There's one correct narrative around XYZ, and that's the one I'm sticking to, and all the others just are wrong. They're just wrong. No, the billions of people in the world that believe these things just as fervently as I believe in my case, they're all just wrong. And I just happen to be the one who's right. It's never made sense to me. It just doesn't.
And that's the magicalness of algorithms that I find infinitely fascinating because human language and by extension, human reaction is a mathematical formula. It's not, it is. We don't want to admit it. We don't want to think about it, but I've used the example of the end cap, right? You could take and this has been proven 1,000 times, right? If you put the same product more expensive on an end cap, it will sell something like 3 times as much, right? Same product.
Yeah.
You bury the same product in the middle of an aisle, nobody gives a shit about it. You put it on the end cap, it's like a fucking sacred cow, right? And they're out there buying it like crazy, right? People are dumb. And I don't want to say they're dumb. They're just easily influenced, right? Like, and nobody wants to believe that. So
you can convince people that it was their decision too. I mean, this is what NLP does. This is what mentalists do all the time.
Now, when you fast forward that to a Facebook group on anti-vaxxing or something, like you can have that Croatian, everyone agrees with me feeling very, very easily.
Yeah.
And ignore the fact that there's 8 billion people that disagree with you like that. I mean, that's, there was that book Chaos Theory, which put into perspective for me a lot about algorithms in general. But one thing that they did, which I definitely see a lot of things happening like this, is Nazis used to be like on a graph, the Nazis would be over here and anti-vaxxers would be all the way over here. And, religious fundamentalists would be over here. There was a lot of distance between them on a graph. But what an algorithm did was like move those circles together such that they are now Venn diagrams. So now instead of a Nazi, now you could very easily be an anti-vax Nazi religious fundamentalist. Now I'm not picking on those groups necessarily, but algorithmically you could be pushed into that viewpoint through math. That's it. Like there's no, you might not have been any of those things, or maybe you were a little bit of one of them. But if you spend enough time in the algorithm, it's proven time and time again.
You merge. Yeah.
You could merge. You could be that person. You know what I mean? And now you're fighting not just one bucket of ignorance, but you're fighting multiple.
I think I've seen this even in the holistic community, especially with COVID, where like, people that I thought were moderate. I was literally having conversations about Bernie Sanders with someone who became like, I'm like, dude, you're Jewish. You sound like a fucking Nazi.
Yeah, right.
Do you understand how crazy that is? And it got to the point where it's like, I can't even talk to you. You're not even everything I say or show you is invalid. It's not factual, even if I cite sources. It's so hard when it becomes so hardwired as almost a belief rather than an opinion.
Well, and one of the beauties of the psychedelic experience, for me at least, was heightened insight. Now, I'm not talking about insight into the actions or the beliefs of others, but insight as to my own belief systems and the mental models that I use in order to assess the world. And one tragic area, despite all of the fascinating subjects that show up on my TikTok or Instagram or YouTube shorts feed, everything from people who are using steroids to enhanced water to dogs to empathy being a sin to all sorts of esoteric supernatural sorts of stuff. One thing that I never see is a discussion about the need for each of us to apply insight vis-a-vis the mental models through which we view the world. Everything seems to be reinforcing the idea that whatever your mental model is, if you believe in it strongly enough, or if someone shares it with you, it's right. And we've got problems with that.
That's a big bias there. Yeah.
It is, but like, you know what I have to kind of remind myself is somebody once told me, completely abandon the idea of changing someone's nature.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is something I still struggle with like daily. Like I have, every time somebody says something dumb like that, I have to like literally stop myself because I'm like, look, am I trying to change? Is the next thing out of my mouth trying to change their nature? Like you put it really beautifully, Scott, about like, the blind metaphor and like the sun touching their eyes. Like, I do think that a lot of what Tom and I do here is exactly that as well with the health stuff. Like we want to like help people see things that they didn't see.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, you can't force them to, because that's trying to change their nature and that's never going to work.
Well, that's funny because that's the cave story too, right? That's the cave allegory, right?
Yeah.
But
Scott, I don't know where we could go from here, to be honest.
Jeez. What Matt is saying is people stop listening after an hour.
Yeah. I'm like, I feel like we took a ride here.
We didn't even really get into the Webdelics stuff, but we got into it.
Okay. Scott will be back.
Scott had such a great story that I think that had to happen, man.
Yeah.
Again, you all create a space where I am quite skeptical that people will automatically stop listening after an hour. But you're right. Where do we go from here? We could go into an infinity of directions.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of being a guest on the show like this.
And the good news is, Scott, you and I are sort of bound to one another for the foreseeable future. So this likely will not be this won't be the last one of you. But man,
very much in the other direction too.
Yeah, I got to kind of take a breath after this one.
It's a heavy one. Yeah, heavy.
Yeah, a lot to think about here. I hope people who are listening also have that reaction.
We get all these amazing guests and their stories I think that's the most important part of it. It's not so much the topic. It's who that person is and coming out and expressing that really is just one of my favorite things about the show.
Yeah. And Scott, you were amazing. I thank you for, I definitely I did not know that about you, this story. And I also would never have expected that to come out of your mouth. And I'm so happy that it did, because this was great.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that you all created the space, but also were able to take that and move it in so many fascinating, really deep directions.
So Scott, where do we want to send people for you right now? Do we want to send people to Webdelics? Do we want to, let's, how do we get in touch with Scott Mason?
Always feel free to reach out to me at scott@myfreedomrocks.com, scott@myfreedomrocks.com. My LinkedIn site, s.scottmason. The Myth Slayer also is a good place to start. And you will be able to easily connect to both a whole lifetime's worth of mythological insights into your personal, professional, and spiritual development, as well as Webdelics from there. And I'm happy to talk to anyone more about all of those topics.
I love that URL, by the way. myfreedomrocks.com is
Thank you.
Fucking awesome. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, that's easy enough. And Webdelics is
I'm totally hitting you up on LinkedIn right now.
Yeah, and Webdelics is definitely a blooming flower at the moment. So we will be talking about that. Actually, Tom and I have brought that up several times on here. And again, as that thing sort of starts to evolve into what it's born to be,
yes,
we will continue to talk about that. But in the meantime, man, I you know what I take out of this? My 50,000 foot takeaway from this is that you just encourage me to take a moment to recognize that we are on the right path here. Like this discovery path is the only path to get past all of the problems that we've got around here right now. Look around you at any given point, I could look around me and say, you know what, if I understood myself better, then I understand my reaction to this better. I understand how to navigate this better. I understand how to remain calm through any, it's just, it's hard to realize that all the time. It's hard to keep that in memory, in focus,
Really deep.
So cool, man. Well, Scott, hang out afterwards. We're going to have to hit stop here, but hang out for a second. And yeah, man, I love talking to you. You're welcome back anytime. And thank you.
Thank you.
Profoundly.
Thank you, Scott.
Have a great weekend, guys.
Yeah, you too.
Take care.
Be subversive, irreverent.
Health is wealth, but you knew that.
Everybody knows that.
But so is following us on social media at Irreverent Health. And check out our website for more exclusive content at irreverenthealth.com.
Oh, I like this.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Irreverent Health.